Hello everyone, in today's video we are going to discuss how to crush the Traxler Gambit with the white pieces. Traxler Gambit is considered one of the most counter-attacking opening to play with the black pieces, but today we are going to simply decode this Traxler Gambit and simply crush this Traxler Gambit within some minutes. So I don't want to waste any further time, so if you are not yet a subscriber, make sure to subscribe the video, and now let's quickly jump into the video. So we are playing with the white pieces and we start the game with 1 e4. Black plays e5, we play the move knight to f3, knight to c6, bishop c4, knight to f6. A pretty standard opening, and after knight f6, white plays knight to g5. What's the idea? It is also known as the fried liver attack. White is simply attacking the pawn on f7 in this position, and the common way for any beginner to respond in this position is to play the move d5. So that after pawn takes, black captures the pawn with the knight, and it looks pretty natural and it looks like black is completely fine, but there is a very strong move in the position, which is knight into f7, attacking the queen and the rook. So that after king into f7, we have queen f3 check and also attacking the knight. And after king e6, there is this knight c3, short castle, d4, and white is already having a very tremendous advantage. And in this position, if you pull your king back, it's simply to move mate, and the game is over for black. So that's exactly what happens if you play the move d5 for any beginner. So there is a move which is bishop to c5, which is also known as the Traxler counterattack. And at the first glance, it looks like what is happening. Can't we simply capture the f7 pawn with the knight attacking the queen and the rook? But here, black is having a very strong move, which is to play the move bishop into f2, check, and basically sacrificing the bishop. What's the line? The line is basically after king into bishop, there is this knight in the e4 check, which is very strong. And yeah, if white doesn't know how to react to it properly, white is going to have some big issues. So going back, in this very position after bishop c5, we can already say that our opponent, very well known, knows that he wants to play the move bishop into f2, the Traxler Gambit. So in this position, at the place of capturing the f7 pawn with the knight, we are going to capture the f7 pawn with the bishop in this position and simply give a check to the black king. After bishop into f7 check, black plays king e7 because black wants to keep the f8 square for the rook or the queen maybe. So after king e7, we simply pull our bishop back. Why? Because in this very position, black wants to play h6, attacking the knight and the bishop. That's the reason we simply pull the bishop back. We are already a pawn up and our opponent can no longer castle in the position. So after bishop c4, I have covered three main moves in the position from the black side, which is first bishop into f2, which looks like a Traxler Gambit. Second, queen e8, and third rook f8. Queen e8 and rook f8 are the best moves according to the engine. So first, checking out what happens after bishop into f2 check. After bishop into f2 check, we can happily capture the bishop back with the king, and nothing is happening. There is nothing to worry about because we have not sacrificed something like knight f7. So our pieces are simply perfectly placed. We are already a piece up. So after something like rook f8, putting the rook on the same file as the king, we simply pull our king back, h6 attacking the knight. We simply pull our knight back, knight into pawn, and simply don't worry a bit. Simply keep on developing your pieces, knight c3, and after knight takes, pawn takes. The position is already way better for white because I don't see any way for black to do any kind of attack to the white king, and white is completely having a winning position. So going back, after bishop c4, that's exactly what happens if your opponent plays the move bishop into f2. So now let's try to discuss what happens if your opponent plays the move queen to e8, which makes sense. Black wants to get the queen on the king side and try to put some pressure on the king side. After queen e8, we play the move knight to c3, focusing on developing our pieces, keeping flexibility whether we should castle or not. After knight c3, our opponent plays queen g6, attacking the knight and the pawn and also putting some pressure on the pawn on e4. So here I want all of you guys to pause the video and try to think, how are you going to continue the position if you're playing with the white pieces? Okay, so here first of all, black is simply attacking the knight. So here we can already have a very strong move. If you found the move d4, excellent job. What's the idea? After d4, we are first of all defending the knight. Second, we are attacking the bishop. So black is having no time, but black is forced to capture the pawn. But after bishop into d4, we are having a very strong move, which is bishop to f7, attacking the queen. And here the queen is having only single move, which is to play the move queen h6. And here after queen h6, definitely we want to move our knight to attack the queen from the bishop for the bishop. But here black is always having the h4 square available for the queen. That's the reason after queen h6, we are going to play the move h4, covering the h4 square. And now there is no way for black to defend the queen, and black can simply play the move knight e6, attacking the queen, and white is completely winning the game. For example, if black plays something like g6, still a move like knight to e6 completely wins the game, because the queen still has no square to run away and white is having a completely winning position. So going back, that's exactly what happens if your opponent plays the move queen to e8. Now, coming to the main move, what happens if your opponent plays the move rook to f8 in this position? And I personally feel this is the main move. After rook f8, we play the move short castle. Why? Because I personally feel that there could be some potential sacrifice from f2, so that after king into f2, black could have something like knight into e4, double check and capturing the knight. So we don't want to take any chances, we simply castle. And here again black is having two options. Black can play the move h6 or d6. First, let's try to discuss what happens after h6, attacking the knight. We pull the knight back, and here black simply captures the pawn. And here we play the move bishop to d5, attacking both the knight. And here the knight on e4 is simply hanging. So black is having two options to simply retreat with the knight or simply go for capturing the f2 pawn. So here, if knight into f2, we can capture the knight, bishop into f2, king into f2. And here, first of all, black cannot really push the pawn to attack the knight because we can simply capture the pawn. So here d6, keep focusing on developing the pieces, I guess. d3, developing the piece. Knight to d4, putting more pressure on the knight on f3. We play the move c3, forcing black to capture the knight. Bishop into, bishop g4, knight d2, developing the piece. Queen e8, and now simply playing h3, forcing the bishop to capture the bishop. Knight into f3, and here we have queen g6. Black wants to get the maximum pieces near the king. So here we simply keep focusing on developing our pieces via bishop e3. And after rook e8, simply pull your king back to g1. And after something like, I don't know, maybe e4, pawn takes, queen takes, bishop d4. Bishop is at its best place, attacking both the pawns. So after something like king d8, we can happily play the move queen to d2. And white is on the better side of the board because, first of all, white is having two minor pieces against a rook, which is always better. Second, white just needs to play rook e1 or rook f1, just trade off one pair of the rook, and then white is simply completely winning position. Like, at least in the worst scenario, white is going to have a draw, or you're going to simply grind the position and you can win the game. So this is how exactly what happens if your opponent plays the move knight into f2. Going back, what happens if your opponent plays the move knight to f6, going back with the knight and attacking the bishop on d5. Here we are simply going to capture the knight with the bishop. Pawn takes, and simply going to chop off the pawn on e5. And you can already sense the position. White is completely winning in this position because of the black's weak king in the center. We can play rook e1, queen e2. Position is already completely winning for white. Knight g6 is coming up and the game is over. So that's exactly what happens if your opponent plays the move h6 in the position. So if the opponent plays a move like d6 in the position, focusing on developing the pieces, we can play the move knight to c3 first. Again, focusing on developing the pieces. So in this position, black plays queen e8. If black somehow plays a move like bishop g4, attacking the queen in the position, white is having a very strong move, which is knight to d5 check and attacking the knight. So the point here is, if knight into d5, we can simply capture the bishop. Queen g4, queen d6 is coming up. The knight is hanging and the position is winning. That's the idea, and you can't do it anything. So after knight c3, if black plays queen e8, which is the best move, we can still play the move knight d5 check. And if king d8, we can play the move c3. Our idea is pretty simple. We want to play the move d4 or even b4. Sorry about that. And white is having a completely winning advantage. If h6, we can pull our knight back first. And after bishop g4, simply trade off one pair of knight and play the move bishop e2. And still, the threat remains the same. We want to play d4 or b4. White is having a completely winning advantage. So this is exactly what happens if king d8 is played. If black captures the knight, it's completely winning for white again. E into d5, capturing with the pawn, attacking the knight, kicking the knight back, and simply c3. The idea is still the same. If you want to play d4, black's king is still in the center, and white is completely winning the game. So this is exactly what happens if your opponent plays the move rook to f8. So yeah guys, we have successfully covered how to simply crush the Traxler Gambit within minutes. And there are basically three main variations that you just need to remember. Bishop into f2, which is, I would say, a very sideline. On the practical board, it's never going to be played because it's completely simply a blunder. Rook f8 and queen e8 are the main moves, I personally feel. So you must focus on that one. So yeah, this is how easily you can crush the Traxler Gambit. So if you guys learned anything new in this video, which I think you must, then make sure to like the video, share this video with everyone, and make sure to subscribe to our channel if you are new to our channel. I'm going to come up with these interesting videos like this. If you want any particular video on any particular topic, make sure to tell me in the comment box below. I'm going to see you soon. So till then, stay tuned and keep watching OneShot Chess.